The betrayal that begins before the affair. Most people believe cheating begins with a kiss, or a hotel room, or a late-night confession. But in reality, betrayal almost never starts that way. Long before a man crosses a physical line with another woman, something inside him has already begun to shift, quietly, gradually, almost invisibly. Infidelity begins in the mind. It begins when his attention drifts, when his loyalty loosens, when the emotional space that once belonged to you slowly begins to fill with something or someone else. And the painful truth is that by the time the physical betrayal happens, the emotional betrayal has often been happening for months, sometimes even years. Because when a man begins to mentally leave a relationship, he rarely announces it. He doesn't sit you down and say, "I'm slowly disconnecting from you." Instead, the signs appear in small ways, subtle ways, ways that make you question yourself before you question him. Small changes in tone, small changes in presence, small changes in attention. And those small changes slowly grow into a distance that you can feel but may struggle to explain. Because emotional betrayal rarely enters a relationship loudly. It creeps in silently. And by the time the truth becomes obvious, the emotional damage has often already been done. The first thing that changes is his attention. Attention is one of the most powerful currencies in a relationship. Where a man's attention goes, his emotional investment follows. When a man is truly devoted to you, he wants to hear you. He wants to know how your day went. He wants to understand what you're thinking and feeling. Your presence matters to him. Your voice matters to him. Your experiences matter to him. But when that devotion begins to fade, something strange happens. He stops looking at you the same way. Not dramatically, not overnight, but gradually. You begin speaking, and his mind seems somewhere else. You tell him something important, and he nods without really listening. You notice that the man who once studied your face like a book now barely looks up from his phone. The long conversations disappear. The curiosity fades, the interest weakens, and the truth is painful but simple. When a man's attention leaves the relationship, the rest of him often follows. Because emotional cheating almost always begins with redirected attention. And attention, once redirected, rarely returns without conscious effort and honesty. Emotional withdrawal is the earliest form of infidelity. One of the clearest signs that a man is already drifting away is emotional withdrawal. At the beginning of a relationship, most men open themselves. They share their thoughts, their frustrations, their dreams, their fears. They want you to know them. They want to feel understood. They want to feel seen. But when a man begins to emotionally cheat, even before a physical affair, he starts closing those doors. Suddenly, conversations become shallow. He stops confiding in you. He stops sharing what he's thinking about. He stops letting you see his inner world. And when you ask what's wrong, his answers become vague. Nothing. Just tired. Work stuff. Short responses that end conversations rather than deepen them. And this is where many women begin to doubt themselves. They wonder, maybe he's just stressed. Maybe work is overwhelming him. Maybe I'm overthinking things. Maybe I'm being too sensitive. But the truth is this: when a man stops opening up to you, he is usually opening up to someone else or preparing to. Because emotional intimacy cannot simply disappear. It always relocates. The emotional energy that once flowed into the relationship doesn't vanish. It simply finds another direction. The routine starts changing. Patterns reveal the truth more than promises ever will. Words can be manipulated, promises can be broken, but patterns tell the real story. When someone is faithful and emotionally present, their behavior tends to follow predictable rhythms.
They call at certain times. They check in during the day. They share parts of their routine with you naturally, not because they have to, but because they want you to be part of their life. But when a man begins cheating, emotionally or physically, his routine develops strange gaps, unexplained time, late nights that don't quite make sense, schedules that suddenly feel inconsistent. You begin noticing empty spaces in his day that weren't there before, and when you ask about them, the answers often feel rehearsed. Not necessarily lies you can prove, but explanations that somehow feel incomplete. That's because deception rarely sounds dramatic. It sounds slightly off, just enough to make your intuition whisper, something isn't right. The phone becomes a barrier. Technology has become one of the clearest indicators of modern infidelity. When a man begins protecting his phone like a secret vault, something important is usually hidden inside it. Maybe he turns the screen away when you walk by. Maybe he starts taking calls in another room. Maybe the phone is always face down on the table, or suddenly locked with new passwords. Now, privacy in a relationship is normal, but secrecy is different. Privacy protects personal space. Secrecy protects hidden behavior. And when a man guards his phone like evidence, it's rarely because he's planning a surprise party. It's because his digital life contains something his real life isn't supposed to see. If this video is helping you see these patterns more clearly, take a moment to like the video, share it with someone who might need to hear this, and subscribe to the channel. Because understanding human behavior can protect you from emotional harm in ways most people never learn. And the more awareness people have about these patterns, the harder it becomes for betrayal to hide in silence.
He begins rewriting the story of your relationship. One of the most disturbing psychological shifts happens when a cheating partner begins rewriting the history of the relationship. Because deep down, most people don't want to see themselves as villains. So to justify their betrayal, they start changing the narrative. Suddenly, problems that never existed before become major issues. Moments of happiness get erased from memory, and the story of your relationship slowly transforms into something negative. He may start saying things like, "We've never really been happy. We've grown apart. You've changed. You pushed me away." These statements are rarely honest reflections. They are emotional justifications. If he can convince himself that the relationship was already broken, then cheating feels less like betrayal and more like escape. But the truth is simple. People don't rewrite history when they are loyal. They rewrite it when they are preparing to leave. Criticism becomes constant. Another psychological defense mechanism appears when a man begins criticizing the woman he's betraying, because guilt demands justification. If he can convince himself that you are difficult or needy or overly emotional, then he can rationalize what he's doing. Suddenly, things about you that never bothered him before become constant complaints. Your personality, your habits, your emotions, your needs. But these criticisms are rarely about you. They are about easing his conscience. It's easier for him to betray someone he has convinced himself is flawed. Intimacy feels different. One of the most painful changes happens in physical intimacy. Sometimes it disappears completely. Other times it becomes mechanical, forced, disconnected. Even if the physical act still happens, something essential feels missing. Because intimacy requires emotional presence, and a man whose mind is divided cannot give his body honestly. You might lie next to him at night and feel an invisible distance, like you're sharing a bed with someone who is emotionally somewhere else, and that quiet distance can hurt more than an obvious betrayal, because it's the slow realization that the connection you once felt is fading. When you speak up, he punishes you for it. Perhaps the clearest sign of deep betrayal is how he reacts when you express concern. A man who is still committed, even if struggling, will listen. He may feel uncomfortable.
He may feel defensive, but he will engage with your pain. A man who has already left emotionally will do something different. He will call you insecure. He may accuse you of overthinking. He may mock your intuition or turn the conversation back on you. This tactic creates confusion. It makes you doubt yourself, and over time you may start suppressing your own instinct just to keep the peace. But that is exactly how emotional betrayal survives, through silence. The most dangerous thing a woman can do. The most dangerous moment in a relationship is not when the betrayal happens. It's when the signs are clear and the woman begins ignoring them. Not because she's naive, but because she is loyal. Loyal people often struggle to imagine disloyalty, so they rationalize, they make excuses, they hope. But loyalty without boundaries becomes self-betrayal. Because when you silence your own intuition in order to keep someone who is drifting away, you begin abandoning yourself. Real power comes from clarity. You cannot control whether someone cheats. You cannot control whether someone chooses integrity. But you can control one thing: your response to the truth. Real strength does not come from begging someone to stay. It comes from recognizing when someone has already left in their heart and refusing to remain in a relationship built on illusion. Because the woman who truly understands her value does not chase attention. She recognizes absence, and she refuses to compete with someone who is no longer choosing her. The final truth. Real love does not make you feel invisible. Real love does not require constant doubt. Real love does not thrive in secrecy. A man who truly values you protects the relationship, not just in public, but in private. Not just with words, but with choices, every single day. And if someone is acting like they are already cheating on you, then the most important question is no longer what he is doing. The real question is whether you are willing to keep betraying yourself by pretending not to see it. Because walking away from dishonesty is not a weakness, it is self-respect. And sometimes the most powerful form of love is the love you show yourself when you refuse to stay where loyalty no longer exists. If this message resonated with you, share it with someone who might need to hear it. Like the video and subscribe to the channel for more insights on relationships, psychology, and personal growth. Because the more people understand these patterns, the more power they have to protect their peace, their dignity, and their future. And remember this: you deserve a love that feels honest, a love that feels safe, a love that never makes you question your worth. Never settle for anything less.